We are blessed to live in a time of abundance. Our needs are met and our desires for goods are fulfilled. Yet there's a dark side to this rosy picture. Some people assume they can scam and bully others into giving up private property. This attitude can be summed up in a cynical remark: what's yours is mine. Of course, this flies in the face of the seventh commandment: you shall not steal. This commandment extends far beyond the ownership of material possessions, however. As the Catechism of the Catholic Church stated, in his use of things, man should regard the external goods he legitimately owns not merely as exclusive to himself, but common to others also, in the sense that they can benefit others as well as himself. The right to private property is a means to an end, not an end in and of itself. It is meant for the good of others, as well as the good of the owner. To this end, government should protect that right as a means to promote the virtues of justice and charity. The seventh commandment forbids theft, especially essential needs like food, shelter, and clothing. The commandment demands fair business practices, just wages, and an honest effort to provide reasonable services to clients. It requires promises and contracts between parties to be equitable and executed in good faith. But the commandment extends far beyond the loss of material possessions to the dignity of the person and even to God's creation. It prohibits depriving people of the right to self-determination. Slavery and human trafficking should be prosecuted by law. It also demands that animals should be treated humanely and the environment should be used wisely for the good of humanity. God said to humans, "Look, I have given you all kinds of fruit and grain to eat, and I have given you the green plants as food for everything else that breathes, including animals, both wild and tame, and birds." The Church considers the human person as the highest value. It condemns philosophies or government policies that reduce the person to a mere agent in an economic system. On the one hand, it rejects communism and radical forms of socialism that assert total state control and deprives people the right to private property. It also rejects fascism that dictates the terms of production for private business firms and order people to meet those terms. On the other hand, the Church condemns a pure capitalism with its beliefs in self-regulating markets and rejects any form of government intervention. Under this system, people are subject to the pain of boom and bust business cycles. They also suffer a lack of goods due to monopolies, fixed prices, and the accumulation of vast wealth in the hands of a few. The Church argues for a middle road between state domination and unfettered capitalism. Reasonable regulation of the marketplace and economic initiatives, in keeping with a just hierarchy of values and a view to the common good, is to be commended. People need work in order to pay for the necessities of life, but work in itself is a part of God's plan for humanity. In the creation story, the Lord took the first human and put him in the Garden of Eden in order to cultivate and maintain it. So work has a dignity that can lead to fulfillment. Work can lead to economic initiative with the creation of new innovations, new opportunities, and new businesses. Creative people have a right to partake in the fruits of their labor. Employers, however, do have a certain responsibility to their employees: to hire without discrimination, to pay workers a just wage, and to negotiate disputes with them in good faith. Government also has responsibilities to promote freedom and the right to private property, to maintain a stable currency, and to provide services that encourage work. Above all, both private and public institutions should stress values that seek the common good. Nations of the world have a responsibility towards each other in order to maintain peace and security. Economic inequalities challenge that equilibrium. Rich nations seek increased growth in capital markets, while poor nations are saddled with more and more debt. So, wealthy societies have a moral obligation to address those inequalities. They should also provide aid and assistance when poorer countries face internal strife and natural disasters. Throughout history, the Church has made care for the poor a priority. We Christians have a duty to share in a love for the poor. We should shun a love of money for its own sake. Instead, we should care for those less fortunate because they represent the face of Christ. Jesus said, "I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I had few clothes, and you gave me more. I was sick, and you visited me to see if you could help. I was under arrest, and you came to see me." On the surface, the seventh commandment seems to address the question of rightful possession. But it involves much more than just the ownership of goods. It implicitly extends to the questions of justice and charity. We not only have possessions, we have a moral obligation to use those for the good of all. This duty extends to our families, our community, and our nation. How we use what we have speaks to our character and to our faith.